Hi, my name's Darren Bugg and today I'm reviewing a Premier Inn in an area of London called Hackney. Now Hackney is in East London. It's just to the east of the centre of London, so it's easily accessible to central London, and it's a good place to stay if you're looking for a budget hotel that won't cost too much but is still less than 30 minutes away from all the entertainment districts and the tourist districts of central London. This is the Hackney Premier Inn, and technically it's not in the centre of Hackney, it's actually in an area called Dalston, and it's very close to a station called Dalston Junction. In fact, there are two train stations very close to the hotel within just a few minutes walk. However, there is no London Underground station anywhere near to this hotel, and that's posed a problem for me because today, in fact all this week, there are train strikes going on throughout the whole United Kingdom. And that is problematic because when I booked the hotel several months ago, I thought it would be a wonderful place to stay because it's so close to a train station. But of course the London Underground is running as normal, but the overground trains are all on strike. So it's meant that I've had particular problems over the last few days I've been staying here related to travel, and I have managed to solve the problems quite effectively. I'm going to talk about that a bit later on in this film, so remember to watch to the end because there are some really good tips about travelling around London, and they'll be particularly useful if there is a train strike or if there's any other particular reason why you can't use the overground trains. Okay, first of all, let's have a look at the room itself. And I'm going to show you the advantages and disadvantages of this hotel, but there's one very major disadvantage, and if you're thinking of staying here then please watch until the end of the film because I will reveal what the major disadvantage is, and it might put you off staying here altogether. It certainly has put me off a little bit, but I'm going to reveal what that is right at the end. I'm going to give the positives first, so let's have a look at the room. So first of all, the bed. And as with all Premier Inns, the bed is extremely comfortable, absolutely no complaints there. I've been here a few nights already, had really good night's sleep, wonderful comfortable bed, certainly can't fault that in any way. The room itself is not massive, but it's big enough. It's a square shaped room, and in the corner, as is often the case in more modern hotels, they've put the bathroom, so it's almost exactly square as a room, and then it becomes an L shape because the bathroom is in the corner, and things fit in fairly well. It's certainly not the biggest hotel room I've ever stayed in, but it's perfectly acceptable really. One thing that is never acceptable in a Premier Inn, or in fact in any hotel, and if you've watched my other video films you know what I'm going to say, absolute total lack of coat hangers. And this is bizarre actually because they've only given you 4 coat hangers, but there could have been 6, but 2 of them just missing the coat hangers. They've got the hooks, they haven't got the coat hangers. I mean, even 6 isn't really enough. I'm staying here on my own, but if I'd been in a couple staying here, 6 coat hangers is bad enough, but they've only actually left 4, and this is, I suppose, is just the hotel being a bit slack, because when they actually check out the rooms at the end of a person's stay, they should just check things like this. Look, they could have just added them. I suppose I could go to reception and say I want 2 more coat hangers, but that's not the point really, is it? When you check out a room when somebody leaves, you should make sure if somebody's nicked a couple of coat hangers. I've no idea why anyone would want to take those coat hangers, but they should have been replaced by reception. So obviously I've got room for a hoodie and my coat, and I've put my trousers on there, but I'm probably being a little bit churlish because you get this problem in just about any hotel that you stay in. It's not just Premier Inn. Even if you pay for a very expensive 5-star hotel, they still never seem to provide enough coat hangers. There's a small window, it lets in a bit of natural light. It's not fantastic, and there are plenty of lights in the room. I like a lot of natural light, which this room doesn't have. Big television, that's a big 42-inch Samsung television which is nice. Unfortunately, there aren't that many channels. It's just the normal Freeview channels. Some of them don't seem to work. And a big problem for me, now I know some people aren't bothered about this, but I like to be able to put my USB stick in the back and watch films that I brought from home, and I can't do that because as you can see, it's fixed to the wall. The TV screen is totally fixed, and on a lot of them you can actually pull them away from the wall, stick your hand down the back and put in a USB stick, and then you can watch films or TV programs that you bought from home. Can't do it with this one because it's completely fixed to the wall, which has been a bit of an annoyance because it means I'm stuck with just a few TV channels which aren't that good anyway. I know that you don't visit London or whatever just for watching television, but it is nice at night to relax with a film, and I haven't been able to do that. They also have these connections, and I have praised these in the past in other video films that I've made, but I've tried to use them as the USB and the HDMI. None of them seem to work, so I'm not quite sure what the point is unless I'm doing something wrong, and I am very technically knowledgeable, but none of these actually seem to work at all. So if you put your USB stick in there, there's still no way you can get your films to work, or HDMI doesn't seem to work. I'm not sure what the point of that is. I should just mention, obviously, the wine and the crisps and the cherry bakewells and the chocolate are not provided by the hotel. They're just what I brought along myself. Wine glass got from reception, and you've got a nice little desk lamp there, which is quite nice if you're doing a bit of reading. The usual stuff on the tray, couple of mugs, couple of glasses, and I always find this very funny. They are so stingy at Premier Inn. They're even worse than Travelodge. You get literally two sachets of coffee. I mean, that's not even enough for one cup of coffee, and you get 4 milk pouches, which again, it's just ridiculous, especially if there's 2 of you. I mean, that's not even enough for one person, let alone 2. Down in reception, they give you them for free. There's like a little dispenser and you just help yourself. It is a little bit annoying though, having to go down to reception if you want to get extra coffee sachets. I got a bit fed up. I went to the local shop and just bought these myself, which are much nicer anyway, because the coffee they give you isn't very good. This is a standard thing, I think, at Premier Inn. I don't know why they do it. I mean, it doesn't cost them much. I suppose they are being a bit careful, because I guess some people will just put them in the bag and take them home with them, and so they're probably trying to save a bit of money on people doing that. But it is very stingy, just giving you a couple of sachets and just 4 little milk. I mean, it's ridiculous, really. It's laughable. But I do stress that if you go down to reception, then they will give you some more for free. So you can ask for some more if you want them. But it just seems a bit stingy. Looking over here, we've got the very, very, very useful air conditioning. And that is one of the reasons I prefer Premier Inn over Travelodge, because Travelodge don't give you any air conditioning as standard. On a hot day they'll give you a fan at Travelodge, but you don't get air conditioning unless you pay for the super rooms at Travelodge. Now, as standard at Premier Inn, you do get air conditioning. You don't have to pay extra for it. So that is very useful to have, and it seems to be in just about all of their hotels. So that's useful. I'll take a quick look in the bathroom. The bathroom's been a bit of a disappointment as well, I have to say. It's got all the standard stuff that's pretty much the same in every hotel that you go in throughout the country that's a Premier Inn. So the toilets are all the same, the wash basins are all the same, the mirror, there I am, and the shower. But this bathroom is really small and cramped. And that has created a bit of a problem because the towel rails are so small. If I move back, you'll get an idea. They're so small, there's nowhere to actually hang your big towel that you're going to use for your shower. These are just the foot towel and hand towel. But the towel rail is really narrow because the room is so small, and that means it's very difficult to dry your towel. I found last night I hung my towel up on here, my bath towel or my shower towel. It didn't dry properly, so what I've had to do is go right outside into the room itself. I had to hang it up on those hooks to dry overnight, and it still didn't dry very well, which was a bit annoying. And I think the main reason for this is because the bathroom is just so small. I'll step back a bit and you can see what I mean. It's very cramped. And there's no bath either. Now in some Premier Inns, in fact most Premier Inns seem to have baths. I stayed at the Premier Inn at Heathrow Airport a few weeks ago, and that was lovely, much nicer than this, and it had a bath. This just has a shower. It's one of the old-fashioned type that have the flexi-cord rather than the fixed shower hose. And although it is more old-fashioned and it's cheaper style, I actually prefer it because you can take the shower head off, you see, and you can wash underneath your bits and pieces, the bits of your body that you want to get nice and clean. And you can't do that with the newer style. The travel lodges all seem to have this kind of hose, whereas Premier Inn, they tend to have the fixed ones, just fixed all the way down the wall. And you can't wash your bits and pieces, but you can when they have a flexible hose. So I always say, if you've seen my other films, you know what I'm talking about. I prefer these, even though they are the cheaper option. I think they're better because you can take the shower head and you can wash all over your body wherever you want to wash. And you just can't do that with the fixed ones because they just fire water down on your head, and that's it. So I actually prefer that style, even though it is actually a cheaper style. You've got the usual soap dispenser, shampoo dispenser. It's horrible stuff. Most people bring their own from home, and again, soap dispenser on the sink. So shower's okay. I prefer it when they have a bath. Some Premier Inns have them, some Premier Inns don't have them. But this is one of the really modern, newer Premier Inns, and they seem to be moving away from having baths. So that's the room. You've got the picture, which seems to be the same in every Premier Inn. I'll just turn the light off here to stop the buzzing sound of the fan. Close the door, and then over in this corner, every Premier Inn has a hairdryer, which you don't get in travel lodges, but you can get them if you go to reception. You can borrow one, but in travel lodge they don't have them as standard, whereas in Premier Inn they do have hairdryers as standard in every room. And then you've got your mirror with your lights. Nice touch, I suppose. And then just swivelling around to the bed again, and the window. And one thing I'm not too keen on, actually, although I think it's just the side of the hotel that I'm on, is the view. The window's covered in condensation as well. Outside, some dustbins and some taxis. Last night I saw a tramp rifling through the bins, and I've seen kids hanging about outside. And it's not a bad area, but it is a bit, should we say, a bit backstreety when you sort of look out your hotel window and just see tramps rifling through the bins and kids don't know what they were doing, taking drugs or whatever. And a bit of a problem there with condensation as well. So a bit of a mixed bag, this, really. My view on this hotel is it's worth staying in if you don't get charged too much money. There are much better Premier Inns that I've stayed in the past. As I mentioned a few moments ago, I stayed in the Premier Inn at Heathrow Airport just a few weeks ago, and it was far nicer and it was the same price. But there was a big disadvantage, and the disadvantage is one of the reasons why people might want to stay here, and that is the location. And it's a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to location, because Hackney isn't the best area of London, to be totally honest. It is becoming very gentrified, so it is improving a lot, but it still does have rough edges, and so you have to be a little bit careful. I mean, I'm not suggesting it's the worst area of London. It isn't. It's quite pleasant. I've had a walk around late at night. I felt quite safe, but it's certainly not the nicest area of London. But it does have the convenience of being very close to the centre. So if you don't mind being in part of London which certainly isn't brilliant, isn't posh, but you want to be near the centre of London, then this could be a very good place to stay, as long as you don't mind it being just a little bit rough around the edges. But earlier on I alluded to a much bigger problem, a much bigger reason why you might not want to stay here, and that's something I discovered before I'd even got to the hotel. Now, I've driven down from Yorkshire. I'm staying here for 4 days. My main reason for visiting is to attend a football match, which is in South East London on Saturday. But I thought I'd stay for a few extra days and have a look round and see an area of London that I've not been to before. And the big problem, which might prevent you from staying here at all, is parking. I drove down from Yorkshire and it took me about 3.5 hours to drive down to London. Then it took me another hour just driving round and round and round the hotel to try and find somewhere to park. There's no car park at the hotel, but there's nowhere to park even very close on a side street. There are no car parks. There's nothing. I eventually did find somewhere about 10 minutes walk away, which I've had to pay for. But it was a struggle. I was getting a bit worried that I wasn't even going to find anywhere to park at all. In fact, at one point I was getting so worried I thought I'd have to drive out of London, park my car somewhere outside London, and then get the train back in, which I couldn't do because there's a train strike on this week. So very fortunately I did find a parking spot, but I was very lucky to actually find this parking spot. And if I hadn't done, I'm not quite sure what I'd have done. So my very big piece of advice to anyone thinking of staying here is, if you're travelling by car, don't. It's just not a good place to come to by car. It was made worse by the fact that the traffic was horrendous. So I was driving round and round a bit of a one-way system, getting caught in traffic, unable to find any parking spots. Nearly all the parking spots that were free said resident permit holders only. Absolute nightmare trying to find anywhere to park anywhere near the hotel. So if you're coming by public transport, if you're coming by train or coach, fine. But really I would advise you not to stay in this hotel if you are travelling by car, as I have done, because it really has been a nightmare trying to find any parking spot. The other big disadvantage of this hotel is the public transport system, although it's a double-edged sword. There's something good and also something bad. Now, the bad thing is this hotel is nowhere near a London Underground station, and many people see that as a priority. If you're visiting London and you don't have a car with you, which as I've just said, I wouldn't come in a car anyway if I came again, but what you need is a method of getting about town, and for most people that is London Underground. The nearest London Underground station is Highbury and Islington, which is a good 20 minutes walk away. In fact, it'll probably take you a bit longer than that. So if you like using London Underground, then again this hotel is a non-starter because it's a long way from the nearest Underground station. But there is a train station very close. In fact, there are two train stations. There is Dalston Junction, which is about 2 minutes walk away, and there's also Dalston Kingsland, which is just slightly further. So it's very well served for London Overground trains, which ordinarily would be fantastic. Problem is, this week they're on strike, so I've had to resort to something that I've never really explored as an option in the past, but I've had to this week, and that is London buses. And this is the big advantage, which has really surprised me, because the buses are wonderful. There are frequent buses literally every 5 minutes from right outside the hotel, and you can get right into central London. Last night I got from the bus stop outside the hotel door all the way to Oxford Street in less than half an hour, and that is really quick, because if you consider going on London Underground, you have to go down the escalators, find your platform, wait for the underground train to arrive, get on the train, you might have to change trains. By the time you get to central London, it can take 45 minutes, and just hopping on a bus right outside the front door of the hotel and being able to get off the bus right in the centre of London. The particular bus I got on was going all the way to Victoria Station, 45 minutes to Victoria, less than 30 minutes to Oxford Street, only 20 minutes to get to Holborn and Tottenham Court Road. So absolutely fantastic. The buses are really frequent. There are also buses that go to Angel in Islington, which is a really vibrant area. Lots of pubs and clubs and restaurants and takeaways. Fantastic area. Angel, Islington, about 10 minutes away on the bus. And then there's Highbury. There's the Arsenal Stadium, the Emirates Stadium, about 10 minutes away by bus. So actually, if you're prepared to do a bit of research and use London buses, then you'll find that this is actually a very good area for public transport. It's not good for the underground, it's a very long way from the underground, and it does require a bit more research to use the right buses. But if you do use the right buses, then this actually can be a very good location. And likewise, if the trains were actually running, then you do have frequent London overground trains as well. Unfortunately for me, they haven't been running, and we've been having a lot of rail strikes in Britain over a long period of time. But assuming that the trains are running properly, then you've also got 2 train stations very close as well. So although there is not an underground station, this is probably a very good area for public transport. So would I stay here again? Well, I would, but with 2 major provisos. Firstly, I would definitely not stay here again if I was travelling down by car. I've explained already the difficulty that I had with parking. Parking has been an absolute nightmare. I certainly wouldn't bring my car down to London again. If I was travelling here by train or by coach, then yes, I would stay in this hotel again. The other proviso is relating to the price. I have to say that the room isn't that big. I don't like the fact there's no bath. The area is a little bit ropey, it's a little bit rough around the edges, and because of that I would stay here if the price was right, but it's not the most luxurious Premier Inn I've been to. I've been to much better Premier Inns in much better areas. So my 2 provisos really is, yes I'd stay here again, yes I would recommend this hotel, but A, do not come by car, and B, I would suggest you only stay here if you can get a good price. I certainly wouldn't pay a high price to stay here, because there are much better Premier Inns and other hotels for a similar price that are a better standard. Apart from that, I think there's a good chance I will stay here again. I'm certainly happy to recommend the hotel. I think if you're on a tight budget, if you can get this hotel for about £50 a night, then that would be perfectly okay. If you're not relying on a car, that's fine. You do have to do a bit of research on the buses and the trains, but the public transport actually could be extremely good, as long as you don't mind using buses rather than the underground. Generally speaking, it's okay. As a budget hotel, there's an expression I don't like using, but that expression is, it is what it is. And this hotel, it is what it is, basically. It's a budget hotel. It's not the best Premier Inn in the world, and it's not the best area in the world, but it does have a lot of good plus points. The main thing is about price, really. Some budget hotels can actually be quite expensive, even though they are budget hotels. This is one of those where if you get it at a good price, then why not? It's clean, it's in a very vibrant area. There's a lot of good stuff going on around. There's loads of facilities, loads of shops, loads of takeaways, restaurants, pubs. There's all sorts going on. There's plenty of facilities. You're 20 minutes away from the centre of London on the bus. Give it a go. It's fine. I'll probably be staying here again myself at some point in the future. It's not the best place I've stayed, but it's perfectly adequate. And on the basis of getting it at a reasonable price, then yeah, I'd be very happy to recommend the Premier Inn here in Hackney.